Oh, okay. Uh, right. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I'm trying to dig out my agenda. Here we go. All right. 7 o'clock. There are 3 of us here this evening. We're ready to get underway. So I call the meeting to order. And the first item on the agenda is a presentation from the Trails Committee regarding a new Trails Committee bylaw that's being proposed.
Yes, I'll give Kat a second to load herself in, but Kat McKee is here from the Trails Committee, and she is just, I think, mostly informational, Kat, for us, kind of general support of the Trails Committee as they've been ad hoc and want to be full-fledged now.
Yes, and I do have just a couple slides. I'll keep it very short. I know everyone's really busy, but it seems my screen share is now available to us.
Yeah.
So you sneaky. Okay, so do you guys see the screen, the slide, the first slide?
Yes.
Great. So I'm Catherine McKee. I think most of you know I'm the Trails Committee chairperson. And we are here just to let you know that we are putting forth an article in the town warrant this town meeting to go from an ad hoc committee to a standing committee. And one of the reasons we're doing this is last year we were doing some research, and the definition of an ad hoc committee is essentially to usually a very specific purpose, and then they're dissolved. And Trails Committee has been around for 9 years and going strong. So we reached out to the general counsel of town and asked if there was any reason why we couldn't or shouldn't, and there wasn't. So we went forward with that, and it also blended in with an initiative. We went ahead and changed our charter. We just updated some language. We went before the select board and asked if we could just modify our language a little bit to be more inclusive of some of our responsibilities that we've been doing, and to identify and kind of create a more flexible structure. So what we have done and approached the board about was if we could add a couple of associate members. We're calling their non-voting associate members. And so we went through that process. We vetted it with the general counsel. He actually thought that, associate members are a good idea, and I can get into a little bit about why that is. And this whole thing started about, we had a full committee, and we had a couple of people come up and say, hey, we want to serve in your committee. And we didn't want to lose that opportunity. So we wanted to find a way to expand. But as you know, quorum is really difficult to obtain sometimes, and we had issues with quorum before COVID. So and actually had looked into this opportunity years ago when we had some members that just our day-to-day busy, can't make meetings. So was there a way we could work out and still leverage the talents of the people that we were working with and have a win-win? And so now we did a little research, and we discovered this opportunity. Other communities are using it. We found up to 12 other communities using associate members. We didn't do a comprehensive search across the state, but we did talk to 3 of the communities about how they're using the members, and they're using them in very similar ways. So I'll get into that in just a moment, but the structure that we're not changing anything. We currently have 5 voting members, and we have 2 serving associate members. And so what the bylaw is going to do is just literally put that into effect. So a couple of reasons advantages and benefits of the associate members, and give you a little bit of background. Like I mentioned, we had a couple of people approach. We wanted to find a way to get them to work with the committee. And so approached general counsel, found that it was a good idea or okay idea, and then approached the select board. And it essentially, the Trails Committee is one of 3 committees in town that require outside manual labor to do our charge, to fulfill our responsibilities. So it's really helpful to have a couple of extra people that are knowledgeable about the trails, that are already trained, that can come out and help with the maintenance. Now, some of the questions have been like, why don't you just organize volunteers? Well, we do. That's part of our charge. We organize volunteers and work parties. But if you've ever done that for any number of events, it's a lot of work. We're happy to do that. We do it multiple times a year. We will oftentimes work with the scouts. We work with the community. Last year, we had a couple of work parties, and those are really successful. But a lot of times our work during spring, summer, and fall are just going out for a couple hours to do some main maintenance and such. And that's where a lot of times we're on vacation. So if we had a couple of extra hands, that makes it really helpful. They're already teed up. They know what's going on. They're covered under the town liability policy. We don't have to get waivers signed. There's not a lot of extra work involved in organizing that. And when everyone's really busy, that really works to our advantage. It also gives more people an opportunity to serve on the Trails Committee. So that's another benefit. And we can leverage different talents. So for example, a scenario was we had an individual with marketing skills, so they could develop marketing videos for us, but not a lot of time to devote to our committee. And that gives, the associate member doesn't have to attend every meeting. They're non-voting, so they attend when they can. So that's kind of some of the reasons why we moved in this direction. And so what we're doing, and we've vetted this thoroughly with the general counsel, as I've mentioned. We've met with the the attorney general, the open meeting law. We talked to them, and just to see if there was any issues from that point of view. We talked to several different towns. We've approached, it's like 8 different boards, committees, and commissions. We're taking in their feedback. We've modified our bylaw to kind of help address any concerns. So, what we're doing tonight with the Conservation Commission, because you do oversee you have under your care and control properties that have trails and stuff, although those are not under our purview. We want your support, essentially. And so we want to answer any questions. And I don't know if it's an acceptable approach, given your numbers tonight, to ask for a vote of support. And what we would do with that is essentially say we've met with Concom, as we're doing with other committees and commissions, and they're on board and support. So as we go out and kind of get the community's support before town meeting. So I think that's it. And I just want to introduce you, in case you don't know the Trails Committee members. You've met me and Satyendra Sharma. He's been with us since 2017. Isabel Murphy, Tom McCoolier, Isabella Bogdansky, Will Warren, and Tony Schoner are also, there's the most recent associate members that were appointed last fall. So I'll close there and open it up for questions or comments. And thank you for your time.
Thanks. Just a real quick question on the associate members. They're appointed by Board of Selectmen, yes?
Correct, yes.
Okay, great. And they are non-voting always, or are they able to fill in when you can't summon a quorum?
Always non-voting. Some
Okay.
towns do that, but that's not the case.
I was just curious.
Yeah, that was some controversy.
I didn't realize that you had first been impaneled 9 years ago, and you've been going continuously since then. This makes absolutely perfect sense. Does your schedule, would it help you greatly to have a vote this evening? Or would it impact in any way if we waited? It's 3 weeks until our next meeting. Is that correct, Melissa? Yeah. We had shifted this one. We also shifted the next one. So 3 weeks until our next meeting.
Is that the 28th? Yeah. I think I would honestly feel more comfortable if all of the commissioners were a part of the vote, because then it would be said, or could be said, oh, you voted and they weren't all there and not everyone was on board. And so we would rather, full transparency, have you guys vote as a commission. But, if there's any general consensus that you feel comfortable me saying, so far so good, or something to that effect. Otherwise, we'll just stay quiet on the topic. It's up to you and how you want to approach that.
We can just sort of give you an indication for me is I'm very much in favor of it, and I see some heads nodding. So I would suspect a similar opinion when the full committee's assembled, the full commission, excuse me. Does anyone, Russ or Pete or Jeff, do you have any questions for Kat?
No, I think you've covered it pretty well from my point of view.
Do we have anyone from the public who has any questions or comments they'd like to offer? You can use the raise hand function if you do.
Not seeing any hands.
Okay, so I guess so Melissa, can we get Trails Committee on the agenda for our next meeting? And
absolutely.
Thank you. So on the agenda for the next meeting, and we'll see you in 3 weeks. Thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you for your time and thanks for everything you guys do. I know you have a big job, so appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
All right, so next up, we have two folks interested in joining the commission. I was able to speak with Kevin Harrington by phone a couple of weeks ago, and he seems like he would be a great fit. I'm glad he's able to join us here tonight, and I'm looking forward to meeting the other interested person, Elizabeth Zulik. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, Kevin. Oh, Kevin, you're on mute. Good to see you in person on Zoom. Yeah, Kevin and I were able to speak, and I just told him a little bit about what we do, what to expect, and just sort of some general subject matter, the Wetlands Protection Act, our local bylaw, and so forth. And it didn't seem to scare him away, so he's here tonight. And Elizabeth, you go by Liz?
Liz, yep.
Okay. First, good to meet you. And if you'd like to tell us a little bit just about your background, that would be great.
Sure. I can start. My name is Liz Zulik. I moved to Southboro about a year ago. I live on Hidden Meadow Lane. Moved from Boston. I grew up in Acton, Massachusetts originally. I got my master's in public health at Boston University with focus in environmental health. I then went on to get my PhD in molecular biology. I'm a professor at Northeastern University in their College of Professional Studies, mainly an administrative role now. I am interested in joining this committee for a few different reasons. One, I'm interested in getting involved in the town. I think it's important to be involved in the community you are. And I'm really interested in the conservation space and environmental justice, environmental health. And so I spoke with Melissa about this opportunity. My uncle is also really involved in the town that he lives in New Hampshire. So I spoke with him about kind of his experience on the Conservation Commission in his town. He said there was big differences between New Hampshire and Massachusetts, but it was great to talk to someone who had some experience. And I think the person who got me kind of, looped into this network in town was I don't actually know how you say their last name, the Plaff family, Plaff, P-L-A-F-F. So I'm like, I don't know how you say it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. Well, thank you. Yeah, so I'm not sure how much you know about what we do, but the 10,000-foot overview is we are in charge of the enforcement administration of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, as well as our local Southboro Wetlands bylaw. We have a local stormwater bylaw as well. And that, I would say, constitutes general, I don't know, a yearly average would be 2/3 of what we do. And the remaining third is a surprisingly large amount of open space in town has been put under the care and control of the commission, as well as a couple of conservation restrictions. So one of which we'll be speaking about tonight on Chestnut Hill Farm, in fact. And that's become slowly a bigger and bigger part of what we do, and something that I've found interesting. I had no experience with it, prior to joining the commission, and it turns out it's a pretty interesting part of what we do. Do either of you have any questions for the commission? Doesn't sound like. And Jeff or Russ, any questions for either Liz or Kevin?
Can we get an introduction to Kevin too?
Oh, I'm sorry. Of course, I had an introduction to him. I completely
talked to
forgot.
Ben. That's a problem.
Yeah.
So Kevin Harrington, been in town a little longer than a year. Been in town about 26 years now, and had a few years ago was thinking about applying for the Conservation Commission. I talked to Carl Geyer. He cornered me at one of the Earth Day cleanup events and was telling me that I should join. And before I could even get my application in, I think the spot had been filled. So when I saw this opening come up again, I started looking into it again. And really, one of the big differences for me is, I realized that you guys have really look after the town's treasures right now. And especially under COVID, I spent a lot of time at Breakneck Hill and Chestnut Hill, and that was really appealing. I was a little intimidated by the stormwater thing. I do have an engineering background, but only one civil engineering course. And that was a long time ago, so I don't think that counts. But willing to read a lot and work hard. And right now I'm working from home under COVID. So, I'm maybe available during the day for site visits or anything else that might come up.
Fantastic, thank you. Yeah, I know at first the subject matter can seem a little bit daunting. In fact, when you join, you're given this 3-ring binder of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and our local bylaws, and it seems like an awful lot. And I can assure you that after the first 2 or 3 meetings, you'll really have just a firm grasp on sort of the nuts and bolts of what we do. And then, over time, the gaps get filled in. Every year, the MACC, the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissioners, offers training, and funding is available for commissioners to attend courses that they're interested in through the MACC. And in fact, the yearly MACC conference is coming up in a month and a half. Is that right, Melissa?
Passed. It was in March.
It was in March. Okay.
Sorry.
Oh,
There's one in the fall though, usually in October.
Okay, that must be what I'm thinking. Yeah,
It's the M.
that's right. My apologies. Okay. Well, thank you very much for
Just a quick
coming
note.
tonight. I'm sorry.
A quick note, I think a lot of those basic classes are also available online now. So it's a way to get up to speed with some from the MACC.
Okay.
Helped out a lot.
I was very anxious about that. Kevin was like, "Oh, I think I can handle it." I was like, "I need some training," Melissa, but she assured me that she wouldn't let me flounder too hard. So
Only slap you around a little bit.
can't wait.
I did a bunch of those when I first started. They were, super helpful.
Awesome.
Great. Thank you so much for coming in this evening. You're welcome to stick around. We have a pretty, I'm guessing, a pretty light agenda this evening. I don't think we're going to be here particularly late. I should tell you our meetings tend to be a little shorter during the colder months of the year when there's not as much going on, and we're generally out by 8:30 or 9 o'clock. At least this year that's been the case. During the summer it sometimes goes longer. I'd say an average would be 10 or 10:30. Every once in a while it could go to 11 o'clock, but that's certainly not a standard thing. And we gather once every 3 weeks, and once in a very great while, if there's a pressing need, we'll have an interim meeting, but that doesn't even happen once a year. I don't think. It's a fairly rare thing. So that's the time commitment for meetings. And then we all generally, what we do is try to visit sites that are before us for an application, visit them on our own. Occasionally we'll gather in a small group. We just have to be careful not to gather with a full quorum unless we posted it beforehand as a public meeting. But we also always generally have the opportunity to join Melissa when she's doing her rounds, which is also a great way to get up to speed on things. So with all that being said, again, thanks for coming in. And if you'd like to stick around, we'd love to have you, but don't feel that you have to. So it sounds like the consensus here is to recommend the appointment of both Kevin and Liz. Do I have that correct? Is that I'm seeing?
I see no reason not to.
And Jeff, is that okay?
Of course, if they're
Fantastic.
wanting to join, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, it is a commitment, and it's
Well, Melissa, you're on mute.
great to have some help.
I said, sorry about that. I said, do you want me to check in with you two on Monday and double check, make sure before I send in the recommendation? If you stick around, it might be scary.
Yeah,
but...
let me listen to this hour and see how
Okay.
it is.
Okay.
Do you have
That's
questions
fair.
for us? I mean, I don't know. Did we give the opportunity for you guys to ask us questions?
I spent a good amount of time talking to Melissa. I had her send me some of the, examples of the work that you guys do and some links that I've reviewed. So for me, I'm just interested in kind of seeing how the meeting goes. But if I have any follow-up questions, I'll be sure to circle back.
Yeah, same here. I talked to Ben and Melissa, and so have hopefully a good grasp. Probably be surprised, but yeah, I think I'm all set for now. Thank you.
Great.
Okay,
Mhm.
thanks. So next up, we have meetings from the minutes from March 10th. Has everyone had a chance to go through them? And
Took a minute to go through them, but they're fantastic.
I had a couple of small comments myself here. If I can. There we go. So on page 2, 5th paragraph, third line from the bottom, it reads, there was some breakout and erosion on the slope. And I'd just like that to be called out as some septic breakout.
Okay.
Breakout of septic effluent.
Yeah, it's sort of an important distinction in this case. And then this is getting a tiny bit petty here, but page 4, paragraph 2, second line, plans for a residential septic grinder. It's actually a grinder pump.
I think that's an important distinction.
Yeah.
You just don't want to be grinding up septics?
Well, seeing as how we're not allowed to have sink garbage disposals in town.
Right. It's so I'm familiar. The pump they're proposing. It's a.
Oh, they're cool little things.
The E1s. Yeah, they're called a solids passing pump. So it does have some grinding action, but not like a garbage disposal, which is why they're legal for a septic system. So just calling it out as a grinder pump, I think is important for that reason, just to distinguish it from a disposal. Let's see. There was one more thing I saw. Oh yeah, where are we here? Page 8, paragraph 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th line. Town sending to the select board in Hong Kong until it was a more complete draft. So I'm guessing there's a typo. I'm not sure what was intended there.
I don't think anything, maybe. I think it's just supposed to be hold off sending to the select board until it was a more complete
Yeah.
draft.
There we go.
Right,
My
I got
bad,
them.
sorry.
Hey, we both missed it.
That's all.
All right. Okay, I got those edits, so we're all good.
Jeff or Russ, anything?
No,
Good.
All right. So do we have a motion to accept as amended?
so moved.
And a
Second.
second? Melissa?
Pete,
Aye.
Gregory,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
I didn't even have to write your names down this meeting. All right.
Okay. Next up, 12 Brigham Street. And let's see. All right, now we need the notice read on this one, correct?
Yes.
In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Southboro Wetlands Bylaw, the Southboro Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, April 7, 2022 at 7 p.m. via a virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider a notice of intent for a project located at 12 Brigham Street, Lot 5, Map 50, Lot 52, for the applicant and owner, Whitney Street Home Builders, LLC. The project description is construction of a new single-family home, septic, and associated infrastructure. And I see we have someone here for the applicant. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I'm James Tatro from Azimuth Land Design, here representing Whitney Street Home Builders.
James Benacasa.
Yeah, and what you have before you is a notice of intent for the construction of a single-family home on Lot 5, now number 12 Brigham Street. And that is a lot on the north side of Brigham Street, which goes off the sheet. This lot goes all the way to Main Street. The lot has a total area of 75,286 square feet. We're proposing to alter just over 18,000 square feet of it. There is actually, maybe I should say multiple wetlands on this property, which were previously the subject of an order of resource area delineation issued by the commission. We're proposing the construction of a single family house up front off of the Brigham Street frontage with a septic system just off the road in front of the house, a backyard with grading and a erosion control barrier at the limit of work, which would stay the limit of work outside the 20-foot no disturb zone. We would also have downspouts from the house go directed to an infiltration structure, which after the initial filing, I sent Melissa some calculations showing that the dry well and stone there would absorb all directed runoff from the downspouts up to a 1.25 inch storm before there would be any outflow. We do show an outflow to a riprap splash pad. We also show where the foundation drain from the house would also go to a different riprap splash pad. We're not, again, proposing any work, not proposing any wetland alteration, not proposing any work in the town wetland bylaw 20-foot no disturb zone. And again, the soil testing on this was completed in February. So we have submitted already the septic system plans to the Board of Health. We were hoping we'd be able to tell you tonight that they've already been approved. That's not official yet, so I can't say that. But this work, again, would alter basically a quarter of the lot's area, would not go into the town's 20-foot disturb zone. And the house itself is mostly in the buffer zone. If you look on this plan, it's just the front left corner. The garage is out of it. This is going to be a lot where it's basically, I guess I would characterize it as a fill lot, just for the nature of having this. The house location is on ground that right now sits at elevation, say 295, where the road directly in front of it is 301 and change. So that's about a 6-foot difference. So that is why the proposed grading is what it is. But I guess I would also add that this lot, while it has some riverfront area, has no alteration of the riverfront area proposed. You have to go towards the back of what you can see of this lot on this plan. It runs just about through wetland flag 32 and running east-west. So I think we have a reasonable proposal for you for a lot where the impacts are fairly minimal. And I guess I would just leave it at that and ask if there's any questions, and I and the applicant will try and answer.
Thank you. Let's see. Do we have any comments, Joe, from Lucas Environmental?
Yeah, I did do a preliminary review before having gone out to the site. Didn't have too many comments regarding the filing materials that were submitted. I did note that I didn't see any sizing information on the infiltration structure, but that apparently has been submitted. I did get out to the site this afternoon and have a couple of comments. Not sure if the commission is aware that a good portion of Lot 5 has been cleared. Previously, there's a heavy layer of wood chips down on the site right now, which has prevented any erosion. Unfortunately, a section of the existing erosion control barrier at the back of the lot, about a 25-foot section, is completely buried under the wood chips. Couldn't tell for sure that the location of the erosion control barrier on the plan is the existing location of the erosion control barrier in the field. And I think that should be verified. There's also, maintenance of that existing barrier will need to occur besides the buried area. Some spots are in need of maintenance. The other thing I just wanted to point out is that the site is fairly heavily infested with invasive species, Oriental bittersweet and honeysuckle. The commission may want to consider an invasive management plan for the site. That was about it.
Thank you, Joe. Do we have any questions or comments from the commissioners, Jeff or Russ?
I'm taking it that this does not trigger stormwater. How much is being cleared?
As I said at the start, it's on general note number 5. On lot 5, the total alteration is 18,250 square feet, which is 24% of this 75,000 and change square foot lot. So it's both under an acre and under 50%.
Yeah, all these lots are pretty big. They connect all the way back to Main Street. And just for a reminder to the commission, a couple months ago, we did discuss lot 5 having been cleared, and we're okay with it because they were going to be submitting the notice of intent. So just to close that loop real quick.
Anything else, Jeff?
I guess I don't know enough about these foundation drains that seem quite far from the house and relatively close to the wetlands. Can you tell me a little bit about how those work?
It's just a standard foundation drain below the basement level of the house, which on lot 5 is elevation 299.5.
Excuse me, can we see the plan again, please?
Yeah.
On lot 5, it would go off the back right corner of the house. Again, the basement elevation is 299.5, so it'd be about 1.5 to 2 feet below that. And where we propose it to discharge at the base of the slope off the 20-foot no disturb zone, and that's elevation 286. So again, going from somewhere around 296, let's say, or 296 and change to 286, and with a riprap splash pad proposed there for when it does have any discharge.
I was looking at that one that's like right at the 20-foot line. And
What's the box on the pipeline?
That's the one.
This. Yes.
That's the infiltration structure to receive the.
Okay, so this is an overflow for the infiltration system.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
So Jeff, you're talking about this one more specifically, this foundation drain down here?
That's also an overflow?
No, that's, as it say, it's a foundation drain.
That's where it is. Okay.
I have a quick question. Just the sizing methodology on the infiltration system, is it an inch of runoff on the impervious?
We took the entire roof surface in the calculations, said that's directed to that structure, which is a 500-gallon precast concrete dry well surrounded by stone. And I just did a bunch of calculations and said, okay, if I say there's 3 inches of rain to this, do we get? And it just kept going to find the point to show how much rainfall it will absorb without having any piped outflow. And that's 1.25 inches of rain on the roof of that house.
Okay. Great. And then just going to point this out for the commission. We typically look for some sort of monumentation along the 20-foot if it's, within a stone's throw of the house and yard. Being at the toe of a somewhat steep slope, I don't feel it's as crucial here, but I'm curious of the feeling of the rest of the commission.
Also, Ben, just as another point, we did have them put it on the house next door. So if we do have them put it on this one, it wouldn't be, totally out of the blue.
I think it would be perfect. It would be easy to tuck some boulders into that slope anyway. So
Yeah.
it would almost work to their advantage.
What ended up, we usually, give the applicant a number of options and sort of leave the actual demarcation up to them. Do you recall what was used on lot 4?
Jim, have they gone in yet?
They haven't gone in yet. What was discussed was a bound with a plaque. We're actually having a little trouble finding quite the exact plaque that's desired here. There's some of the prefab ones are a little different, a little different message. But that's what was discussed on lot 4 was at 4 points, a bound with a plaque indicating that you're 20 feet away from the wetland resource area and they stop.
So when we did the one on Burnett, we proposed boulders. I think it was 3-foot boulders. Yep. Would that be okay? Could we do that on lot 5 and lot 4? Would that satisfy, just because we're having the issue of getting the correct plaques? Now that's what we proposed on the other one. I don't know if that would be okay with this.
We've certainly approved that on other projects. For my part, I'm comfortable with it. I think I just saw Russ give a thumbs up. Jeff is nodding his head.
I am as well, but the other thing is down the road, kicking the can down the road, and not that somebody can't go out and remove a marker in the ground anyway, but what's telling the next homeowner that this is actually something? And I think it's more important to get all of this wetland information to that new homeowner. And I just feel like we're missing the boat on that as a board.
Yeah, it's
Well, for one thing, the new homeowner is going to end up trying to get the order of conditions.
So
certificate of compliance.
I get it in this case.
Going to be aware.
And I would say the first owners, when we're transferring the properties, because they're seeing all this, it's actually easy, but
The order of
I think
conditions,
like moving forward after that is a little bit more difficult.
And honestly, I think on lot 5, nobody's going to go to the bottom of that steep slope and remove the boulders for any reason.
No.
It's more likely on lot 4 that something like that, the next person down the road would think doing something, they're landscapers out there doing something, and can't we just push these out 5-10 feet further?
There's no foolproof solution.
No, there isn't. This is my trade as well, so I
know. I
hear it.
I think I've got some good solution, but no.
Well, certainly on lot 5, I'm comfortable with the boulders. On lot 4, I can't remember how we crafted the conditions. It might, if there were a change, it might require just an administrative amendment. We would have to look into that. I don't know if you have that on hand, Melissa, or
Yeah, it was mostly just, markers and signage with final approval from the agent and what that mark or what the look would be. So if you guys are okay with boulders, but maybe with a different type of sign that can be adhered to the boulder, so not necessarily the granite, which I think is the hard part to come by, then Jim, maybe we can work a little bit more on that.
I would think even, one monument that said the information that these boulders represent X, Y, and Z, or what have you.
Yeah, right.
I feel like that could probably even be accomplished just with a small sign.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
If you folks are it sounds like the commission's comfortable with that if you folks are boulders and just some indication amongst them of what they represent.
Sure. We would have no objection to a condition to that along those lines included in a possible order.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm the most comfortable with that on anyone yet.
Great. Yeah, I think we may have a new strategy going forward. In fact, that's the easiest, I think the easiest way through it. Any more questions or comments from the commission? Okay, at this point, I'd like to open it up to the public. If anyone has questions or would like to make a comment, please use the raise hand function and we'll promote you up.
I'm not seeing any hands.
Okay. So it looks like, and Melissa, we are, because this is a new matter, we are okay to vote on this. Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Three-member commission. Okay, so looking for a motion to close the hearing.
So
So
moved.
moved.
I think Russ won that one. And is there a second?
Yes, I'll second.
Thank you. Melissa?
Pete,
Yes.
Gregory.
Yep.
Smith.
Yes. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And let's see, are we doing, okay, yeah, next up
Yes.
is lot 6. Let me just read the notice real quickly. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Southboro Wetlands Bylaw, the Southboro Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, April 7th, 2022 at 7:10 p.m. via a virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider a notice of intent for a project located at 10 Brigham Street, Lot 6, Map 50, Lot 53, for the applicant and owner, Whitney Street Home Builders, LLC. The project description is construction of a new single-family home, septic, and associated infrastructure. Okay, would you like to give us a quick overview of lot 6?
Sure. Again, Mr. Chairman, James Tatro from Azimuth Land Design here with James Benincasa from Whitney Street Home Builders. Most of what was discussed for lot 6, for lot 5 applies equally for lot 6. One of the few differences is that lot 6 has in the proposed developed area a 200-foot riverfront area along the northerly boundary of the proposed alteration. We are staying outside of the riverfront area. We're proposing to alter a total of 19,300 square feet of lot 6, which, like lot 5, is on the north side of Brigham Street and extends all the way to Route 30 to Main Street. And lot 6 has a total area of 69,242 square feet. The proposed alteration would be 28%. Similarly, the testing for the septic system and the system itself is in the front of the lot. The house would be at a location that's a bit lower than the road. Again, this is somewhat of a fill lot. We would have, as on the previous lot, proposed a foundation drain going off to a riprap splash pad. And we have the downspouts from the roof of the house going to, similarly, a 500-gallon shade precast concrete dry well surrounded by stone. And that structure would be able to eat up a 1.25-inch rainfall over that roof before you would have any piped outflow. But we do propose an outflow for such instances, and that would go to a riprap splash pad again. As before, we're not proposing to work within the town's 20-foot no disturb zone. We come closest at the left front of the lot because there is a wetland area on lot 7 that is right at the borderline of the property. Yep, where Melissa's running the cursor. Yep, and that is the closest we come to that 20-foot no disturb zone there. Elsewhere, we're toward the backyard of the house. You're just getting into the buffer zone outside of the riverfront area. Should be the wetland area that's on lots 4 and 5. And again, you have that riverfront area for the perennial stream to the north that we would be stopping just before doing any alteration of. So I think there was a sort of a typo in the DEP file assignment on this one where it said, you know, they're altering 48,000 square feet of riverfront area. So no, that's how much riverfront area we have. We're not proposing to alter any of it. We're not proposing to alter any BBW or isolated or any of the town's 20-foot no disturb zone. The house in this case is just barely in the 100-foot buffer zone outside of that wetland that's really on the adjacent lot, lot 7. But again, all the basic particulars of this lot, you know, the status of the house location being a little lower than the street already, having to fill up for the septic system in front. Those are the same as the adjacent lot, against the same size infiltration structure, and based the same erosion control barrier proposed at the limit of work. So I would say that almost everything that we discussed previously applies on lot 5, applies just as much here on lot 6. And again, after we filed, Melissa did the legwork to get the street addresses from the assessor. And again, so lot 6 is number 10 Brigham Street. And I'll just leave it at that, and I'm trying to answer any questions.
Thank you. Joe, do you have any comments on this one?
Similar comments to what was for lot 5 with regard to review of the application material. The only significant comment was that didn't see calculations for the infiltration, but that has been addressed. I also noted that the DEP file number notice had incorrectly stated that there was 48,500 square feet of riverfront alteration. And as it pointed out, that's the total riverfront on the lot. As far as the site visit today, only a small amount of the portion of this lot appeared disturbed along the lot line with lot 5. The rest of it was much less disturbed. And there's also a fairly heavy infestation of invasive species on this lot. So the commission may want to again consider invasives management plan.
Thank you. Jeff and Russ, questions, comments?
Well, as Melissa knows, I'm all about invasive management at this point.
Yeah.
Thorn in my side, so that's great to hear, Joe. Thank you. Other than that, no,
Joe, can you give us an idea of what kind of invasives are out there? I'm sorry, you mentioned
the two primary honeysuckle. I was not sure if it's the Tartarian or Moros, but one of the bush honeysuckles and Oriental bittersweet.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're both quite prevalent.
Where are they? They're just everywhere? Or?
Pretty much everywhere. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would echo that. Is if you walked around the site here and there you saw the vines from those species kind of all around.
Okay, Joe, what would an invasives management plan look like from your perspective?
Typically, for a site that's proposing construction, you'd want a construction phase plan as far as how you're going to treat the plants, the vegetation, and the soil that may be contaminated. So you're not spreading those off-site or elsewhere on the site. And then a post-construction plan for some kind of management and control. Typically, for these species, it would include herbicide application, cutting and painting herbicide application.
Okay.
And would it only be within the work area? I mean, these are big lots that.
They're big lots. They look like much of the lots outside the work area looked infested. I don't know that you'd want to propose trying to control the entire lot, but
right. But we'd encourage to do as much as possible. Continue as far as money allows.
Now, do these two species that you mentioned, Do they have the same sort of risks as knotweed does? Just like my experience with that
Not
is-
quite as bad as knotweed. Knotweed is very tricky because the plant parts, the stems,
right.
They'll take root. If you have a node of a stem and it gets buried, that will start growing. These species aren't as bad. You have to be careful with the fruits. You want to, so you're not spreading fruits during a period of time when the plant is in fruit. So you want to be careful about when you do the removal. And also the soil would be the critical thing. You don't want to be moving contaminated soil off-site to other sites from the site.
Okay.
There's going to be, there's going to be a seed base in the soil.
Okay.
It's going to be a seed base, but no other, not like the misery of knotweed, right?
Not as bad as knotweed. These will tend to sprout
But the
after
seeds
cutting.
rather than being that
Right.
tuber or whatever the miserable thing is.
Right. The plant stems don't sprout spontaneously when they're buried like the knotweed.
Okay.
That was my big question: is does it have to be bagged and landfilled like knotweed would or something? So you mentioned the particular danger when the plants are fruiting. Roughly when is that?
It's usually late summer into the
Late
fall.
summer.
Yep.
Okay. And now your proposed schedule for construction. When are you hoping to get started?
As soon as possible.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, immediately.
Oh, okay. So
And there is no fill coming off the site. Anything we would have to bring some in, especially the backyard. So we wouldn't be bringing that material anywhere. We'd probably be, like I said, bringing more material in than we wouldn't bring anything out.
Burying through the chair, burying can help knock down further growth.
Okay.
Sure, if you were willing to sacrifice just topsoil and plow that down into your low spot.
Right.
Don't think of this as house construction. Think of it as invasive species elimination.
Yeah.
Right.
We're not here to build houses just to get rid of that species.
Yeah.
We hate that bittersweet, that damn bittersweet.
Thank the state.
I think we could craft some conditions that would not be onerous at all, but regarding not removing materials from the site contaminated with invasives, and I'm trying to think of the wording, but actually, I think that would cover all the bases, including not disturbing the plants while they're fruiting. The soil is not going to be going off site. The stuff is all going to be buried. So I think we'd be safe in that regard.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Anything else from Jeff or Russ? All right. At this time, we'll open it up to the public. Is there anybody in attendance who would like to speak on this matter? Please use the raise hand function, and Melissa will promote you up.
I don't see any hands.
All right. So we're at the point where I'm looking for a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Pete,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Okay.
Great. And Melissa, had you put together draft conditions?
Yeah, we can come back to this at the end, and I will clarify my notes and add them together.
Fantastic. Yeah, so we'll be able to vote on conditions more than likely at the end of the meeting for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up, 26 Meadow Lane. Let me get this opened up here. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Southboro Wetlands Bylaw, the Southboro Conservation Commission will conduct a continued public hearing on Thursday, April 7th, 2022 at 7:20 p.m. via a virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider a notice of intent for a project located at 26 Meadow Lane, map 56, lot 14, for the applicant Septic Preservation Services on behalf of the owner, Meadow Lane Nominee Trust. The project description is installation of a crushed stone trench with piping to reduce strain of high groundwater to a leaching field. Okay, we have folks here for septic preservation. Yep. Good
So,
evening.
I'm Brendan Kling from Grady Consulting, representing the applicant. Bob Silva from Septic Preservation is also. So just got my screen share up. So yeah, I guess first things first, just go over some new items that we submitted last meeting.
Yes, please.
So this here's the updated site plan with most of the changes that we had discussed at the last meeting and some of the other ones brought up in comments. We've also did an invasive species management plan and a stormwater report, along with a revised WPA form. Got everything in, and I guess we'll start with the invasive species management plan. So those prepared by John Zimmer, South River Environmental, same person who delineated the wetlands. And what I'm showing here is this green hatched area. This would be the primary area we'd be looking to manage the invasive species. So what we have here is on the top side, everything within that 20-foot buffer zone from the wetlands. We'd be looking to manage the invasive species within there, as outlined in the management plan. We also have this area down here on the south side that's within the easement, and it really goes right up to the proposed work, right up to the edge of the pavement. These total areas, they sum up to about 18,000 square feet of total area. We don't have, quantities necessarily of the invasive species. I believe Joe got out to the site and noted a couple wetland species, particularly the I think it was the bittersweet and the multiflora rose, which I'm not personally too familiar with, but they're in the area. Those would probably be the #1 targets for that invasive species management. So that's really the main outline of those. Then stormwater report, the 40-something page document that really didn't necessarily change anything, but it does document how we comply with the stormwater requirements, particularly that we have no new impervious areas, but we don't really need to do any recharge, although this long trench would probably cover a decent bit of new impervious. Any treatment, it does outline the treatment that we're required to provide. We're in that outstanding resource water area that's provided by the crushed stone trench. Provides total suspended solid treatment before eventually outflowing to the back there. And that's kind of the top points from the stormwater report. We didn't, there's no real change to pre and post conditions. Nothing like that going on. And that's really it for those two items. There's some important things that we kind of want to cover for this project is that this is primarily to reduce the strain on the leaching field that we have here. The groundwater in this area is presenting a serious problem for this. That if left unmanaged, it could influence potential system failure in the future. Serious environmental hazard to the wetlands on both sides, probably mostly to the north, and certainly a public health hazard, being that we are in that outstanding resource water. So it seems of utmost importance that we resolve this issue, if at all possible, and get something in here. So we've looked at some alternatives to this crushed stone trench, trying to avoid reconstructing this septic system in its entirety. One thing that we could do that might lower the groundwater, but would be a poor alternative, would be a series of drawdown wells, which would lower the groundwater in this area, however, would still raise most of the same problems that this current proposed solution presents, such as the lower groundwater table, wetlands, and raise new issues, such as where do we pump this water? Where does the electricity come from? Is this water contaminated? It doesn't get any of the treatment that the crushed stone trench provides. So really, this crushed stone trench is the superior option to the drawdown wells. And then really seems like it, the outside of this, if the system fails, we'd need to raise pretty much everything out here up by upwards of 5-6 feet, which would involve bringing in, quick calculation, possibly up to 10,000 yards of fill material. And we need to bring truck some of the contaminated soil out, be an enormous undertaking. These tanks that we have down here, some of them aren't shown, that are underneath these septic manholes. Those might need to be raised as well to keep them out of the water table, which would constitute a raising. Sorry.
Is Board of Health on board with this?
Board of Health on board with the current drain?
Right.
I believe so. Yeah. This current drain is plenty far
Yes,
away.
we did meet with the Board of Health, and they are fully aware, and they've been every couple of weeks they've been kept in the loop on what we're doing.
Sure, but they're on board with the stone trench part of it, right?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, the stone trench is plenty far away for Title V requirements.
Well, I don't really think that issue, because if you're having groundwater and you'd have to raise the whole system, as you said, with the sand, and it's a very valuable commodity at this point. So, it just triggers some thoughts going through my head with Board of Health.
Absolutely. Yeah, to replace the system would be an enormous undertaking.
It's going to happen sooner or later.
As with most.
Yeah, right.
So, it in addition to all that, it would involve potentially raising this sewer line to meet with the new tank, and that could require some fill in these wetlands. This sewer line currently goes through the wetlands as they're delineated here. So we really want to avoid that. Be enormously expensive and quite detrimental, perhaps, to these wetland areas. So all of that is really to say that we think we have the best solution here in this curtain drain. And we'd like to see if there's any way to get this approved, because we want to get this going. The clock's ticking, as they say. We want to, the sooner the better.
Melissa, when Russ asked if Board of Health was aware of this, did I see you nodding your head? You're familiar with that? They are familiar with it?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure that, and they were informed about the breakout issue in that one location, and okay. And we are looking at the invasives management as mitigation for the potential, and I would say likely, impact to the wetland adjacent to the curtain drain. Joe, have you had an opportunity to go through the invasives management plan, and do you have any comment on that or any other part of the project?
Yeah, I did review the most recently submitted plan and responses to our previous comments. I didn't have any specific issues with the invasives management plan. It was somewhat general because it didn't really point out which species they were targeting. It more or less gave a list of potential species that were present. But other than that, it seemed okay. I think the remaining items from the previous comments regard the extent of the wetland A. As I had reported, my observations indicated hydric soil, hydrology, and wetland vegetation essentially up to the pavement edge of the runway, which would put the trench in the wetland, at least in places. Also, the impact on that wetland from lowering the groundwater table, and whether or not the proposed mitigation is sufficient for the potential wetland impacts, which have not been clearly determined. Also, in regard to better defining the edge of the wetland, I've recommended that data be provided, data sheets or data on vegetation, soil, and hydrology, particularly in the area of wetland A along the runway. I still don't see the, and maybe it's just me, but I've been trying to assure myself that what is proposed is within the drainage, the easement, the sewer easement. And I know a label was added to the plan showing the blue lines. But when I eliminated on the plan the extraneous information and just showed the easements, and there's a gap along the western edge of the proposed trench where it's not clear to me exactly where the easement is. And we did attach a figure in our last memo regarding that. And the reason that was important is it was assigned by the property owner that he was okay with it as long as everything was confined to being within the easement. I did also indicate the applicant had noted that an access note had been added to the plan. I didn't see that on the plan as far as where that was proposed. It was described in the narrative, but I didn't see the note on the plan. And that's about it. I think the biggest item is just determining the correct delineation of that wetland A along the runway there and what the impacts are going to be.
Thank you, Joe.
Understood. Yeah, if I could kind of respond to those in
Please
from least significance to greatest, I guess. The access note, I'm not sure what happened to that. I don't know if it got frozen in AutoCAD. It just didn't show up. It's supposed to be right here. So the access comes down that runway. We'll absolutely add that to revised plans. I don't know what happened there. The easements, that easement goes pretty much right into the front property line of number 30 here. It is shown on, if I can actually open this plan here, which doesn't have the property lines from number 30, but it comes up, just comes straight across. So this is the access and utility easement.
Okay, so it actually abuts into the other easement.
Exactly, yeah. So there's kind of two. So this one here is the access and utility in this main area, and this is the just utility easement.
Okay.
So it doesn't have anything to do with access, and it comes right across.
That. Yeah.
Right. The area that I believe you had circled is right here, pretty much the front property line. And then in terms of the wetland line, we weren't able to have our wetland scientists get out in time to check anything out before this meeting. But if I'd like to try to find a way, if we have the wetlands coming up to the pavement, that's, if we can accept that here, I think that's fine. In terms of how to avoid proposing a trench within the wetlands, one thing we could do is just move this trench maybe 2 feet or so into the paved area. So we cut out, saw cut the pavement and just put the trench in what is a pre-existing runway, and just keep everything outside of what could potentially be a wetland area. And perhaps, we can, I don't know, condition some sort of redelineation of the wetlands, showing them in the area as described by Joe there, where they go up to the pavement with those data sheets showing hydric soils and everything like that, perhaps going up to the pavement. And I believe, Joe, you also said maybe extending a little bit farther to the west there in addition.
Correct.
So, if that's a amenable solution, perhaps we could just move everything into the pre-paved area, so that we're not showing anything within a wetland area. Move the drain manhole up, the trench up, the erosion control up, everything like that. Just get it in there.
Do you think we could have it so that there was actually existing pavement on both sides of your trench?
So move it like a foot or so in, so we have, pavement, the trench, and then another foot or so of pavement on the other side.
Right, that would eliminate any disturbance within.
Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, the main thing was
saw cut, not to tell you your business, but
no, I mean, the main thing is really intercepting the groundwater that makes its way from the south to the septic. So I'm sure we could do something like that. We had initially proposed it on this side as a cost alternative because saw cutting the pavement and everything like that can get expensive. But we thought that the wetlands were here, so if they're closer, we're happy to get them out of there.
So just to say it, the alternative to that is obviously fully quantify where exactly the wetlands are, and then once the trench is put in, wetlands that are disturbed have to either be restored or replicated elsewhere on site. That's the alternative.
And that's got an expense to it as well.
Right.
Absolutely. And we don't, don't want to show work in the wetlands. We'd like to keep them out of it, and showing them in the pavement's the best option. We can't do anything on the other side of the pavement. That's far too close to the existing septic system. So putting something in the pavement, I think, is going to be our best bet here if we're considering the wetland right up against that.
If no further analysis of wetland A takes place, in other words, if the work that Joe has recommended isn't done, we would simply have to make a finding in our decision that that we haven't verified the A series delineation, which I don't think would be impactful to your project in any way.
No.
That would be, I think, the only effect there.
Okay. Yeah, and would that involve, us sending a delineation to you after the fact as part of the certificate of compliance?
No, it occasionally comes up. It occasionally comes up that a wetland, we have questions about the delineation, but at the end of the day, the exact location turns out not to be critical for the project. So we simply, one of the conditions is a finding that we haven't verified this particular wetland. Everyone acknowledges that it's there, and we've protected it. We haven't actually nailed down the exact location. If the trench was put within the runway, I think we might be in a situation like that if the rest of the commission is amenable. I will say you may have noticed that we're down to 3 members this evening of a 7-member board. And also, I believe there's a little bit of work that still needs to be done to the plan. So I think we're looking at a continuance to our next meeting when we have a full panel. But I believe that we can certainly get this wrapped up at the next meeting.
Okay. So other things that, I just want to make sure that at least everyone here is on board with what's going on. This really is best plan. It's just, I guess, nailing down if the mitigation that we're providing is acceptable. If there's something more that you'd want. I'm just curious to see the opinions for this.
I can tell you from my perspective, one big element of the mitigation is not having to do an entire system replacement as an emergency replacement, which would just be ruinous financially to the owners and also to the site. And avoiding that, frankly, has quite a bit of mitigation value to me as one commissioner. And the invasives management also is sort of a more tangible form of mitigation that I think is important. From my perspective, and only 3 of us obviously can speak to that tonight, but from my perspective, you certainly meet the burden of showing mitigation for it.
Great.
Well said, Ben. Thank you.
Looks like we've got Judith now too, so we've got 4.
Oh, fantastic. Judith, were you able to hear this hearing?
You're on mute.
Oh. Are you there?
Yeah, I came on partway through, so apologies.
Oh, okay.
I'll go back and listen to the first part.
Thank you. Okay. Go ahead. Somebody was going to say something.
Excuse me. Yeah. I don't want to get into redesigning this thing, but now I've been thinking about it. And would a 40 mil barrier be of any benefit to be installed while this trench was open? Put it on the wetland side?
Of the trench to
Right.
try to groundwater. I mean, it doesn't. Those don't. I don't think those really have an effect on the groundwater per se. If it's going to lower it on one side, it's might lower it on the other. We haven't necessarily looked into that.
I mean, it would be almost like you would be diverting it, if you will, if it had provided, if it was natural. Well, shit. Anyway.
Yeah, it might just end up going over it too.
Right. Or under it and seeking its own level.
It would get back to where we're at, unless we're sending that water somewhere.
Down the road.
Yeah, it'd probably come back up on to the leach field.
Well, I'm not suggesting not doing the trench, just suggesting would there be of any benefit to have that additional?
I think it might end up clogging perhaps one side of the trench. We can look into it though. We can look into it. Is there any way, sorry, before we get too into that, is there any way that we can approve this tonight, or are there just too many conditions, too many things that we need to get for the next meeting?
We need a drawing with the trench
new
in the right place.
The new alignment of the curtain drain, as well as the note on the entrance. We are certainly we're aware of the urgency of this. We know that the construction season is beginning, but we also have a body of law and regulation that we have to abide by.
Of course.
So our next meeting is in 3 weeks.
Okay.
I feel very comfortable that we're going to be able to act then.
Certainly.
It sounds like, at least the three of us who are here for the whole presentation, it sounds like you've got 3 members who feel that the mitigation's appropriate and want to see the work get done.
Okay. Awesome.
Okay, thanks. So at this point, I'm going to look for a motion to continue this hearing to our next,
sorry.
oh, excuse me, go ahead.
1 second. Can you do the public first?
Oh, thank you, Melissa. Gosh, I forgot. Is there anyone from the public here this evening who wishes to offer comment or ask questions? If so, please use the raise hand function and we'll promote you right up.
There's not, but.
Okay. No, thank you. I
Yeah.
forgot. All right. So at this point, is there a motion to continue to our next meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Melissa?
Pete,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Watson,
And
maybe
I
just abstain,
abstain, yeah.
and Smith.
Yes.
All right, perfect.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming in tonight.
Thank you.
I'm sorry we couldn't act right this second, but I feel pretty sure at the next meeting we'll be good to go.
No worries. See you in 3 weeks.
Okay. Good night.
Have a good night.
Okay, next up. Ken's Foods. Let me see here. All right, so with Judith here, we have a quorum with Judith here. It was looking like we were not going to be able to act this evening. Well, let me get the hearing opened up here. In accordance with the provisions of the Southboro Stormwater and Erosion Control Bylaw, Southboro Zoning Code, Chapter 174, Section 13.5, the Wetlands Protection Act, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Southboro Wetlands Bylaw, the Southboro Conservation Commission will hold 2 continued public hearings on Thursday, April 7th, 2022 at 7:30 p.m. via a virtual Zoom meeting on the petition of Ken's Foods Incorporated for approval of a stormwater management permit and notice of intent for the construction of a 62,500 square foot addition to the existing warehouse at 325 Turnpike Road, map 26, lots 2 and 6. These hearings will be held concurrently. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. Scott Doty with John Crow Associates, civil engineers and landscape architects for the project. Good to see you all tonight. And with me tonight is Jim Bourne from Ken Foods. I believe Bill Pizzoni might be available, and also out there, Melissa. And if we need be any questions related, we also have Mark Arnold from Goddard Consulting here for us this evening if questions go in that direction in which we need him. Melissa and I were able to talk a little bit earlier this week, and we were headed towards, with this last submittal, if I may say, that closing out all the issues, getting ready to write an order of conditions. And of course, the quorum issue tonight looks like we're off till the next meeting, which we understand. Looks like you have some good candidates, some good new folks coming in from watching earlier. To summarize, what we do tonight would be to discuss the conditions that we have. We're following the outline that Chairman Smith had outlined months ago when we opened up the hearing to take care of the outstanding orders and the stormwater permit, with conditions that would cover the outstanding items in an order of conditions, and then follow the issuance of an order of conditions with the closure of the certificates on those projects, knowing that the remaining items are taken care of. And I'll go over those conditions. We thought it would be good to go over them tonight in preparation for next week, next meetings 3 weeks from now. Also, very important to note also that the issues that do remain are the issues that the commission needs to make some decisions on, including waivers, which with the exception of two of them, which are really related to the mitigation items, all the other waivers are really the same waivers that had been issued under the prior project from a few years back when the renovation of the site was done. But the other waivers having to do with work in the 20-foot no disturbance zone, and also the drainage volume issue are also related to the mitigation measures that relate to primarily to the volume and the volume issues and the plantings that associated with those. Associated with that, I want to thank Joe and the folks at Lucas Environmental for being able to review the plans and give comments on the plantings. They were speaking for Mark. I see, Mark is on the panel here now. We're pleased with those comments. We appreciate them and take them to heart. And we think we have a good planting plan, but the guys at Goddard do appreciate those comments that Joe brought up about specific plants, particular button bush. I'm going to, if I could, maybe it's easier for me to use a few of the documents that we submitted as organization to present things. The conditions are in two areas generally, just to remind the commission. Drainage, the special, let's call them special conditions, I guess. Drainage repairs for the work that needs to be corrected from the prior projects, and also plantings that need to be fixed and corrected from the prior filings. And going over the drainage issues first, I think. Is that okay with you, Mr. Chairman? We go that direction, am I good?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Let's see, share. Oh, there's Bill. I see Bill there. Yeah, we've got, just to remind the commission, we have some drainage repairs to do, primarily with the construction of two new control outlets for the two separate underground detention systems. And so we call out in one of our conditions that work needs to be done in accordance with the plan that's been reviewed and approved, which will be approved with the order. And I guess the key component of that special condition is that we should provide an as-built plan of those repairs with certification that they've been done in accordance with prior to commencement of the new work. We're going to get to all the old order behind us in terms of that drainage system. That includes the outlet controls and also the issue that was discovered when we did some field work in the middle of the winter to inspect some of the work related to the pipes. We found that there was an anomaly in the pipe going up and then down. It needs to be, a siphon system needs to be constructed on either side of the gas line in order to make that work well and maximize the usage of the south detention system in the lawn area. Also, which was one of the conditions, but upon recommendation from I think it was Lucas, or it might have been Fuss and O'Neill, that we had a condition in there about some potential surcharging in some of the pipes that were built at not quite the right elevations in the area of the truck dock areas. And the condition has been instead included in the O&M plan, where that will be a part of the first 2 years of the O&M plan. Monitoring is looking and making sure that that's all working correctly, and there's no stormwater escaping the closed system that could potentially impact wetland resources. We think there's very little chance of that, but nonetheless, we think we authored that condition to because we think the owner also, Ken's Foods, also needs to make sure that they've got what they should have out there in terms of an operational drainage system. What's on the screen now is the special conditions related to the plantings related to the prior work. There's one condition about a few trees that are adjacent to or near the sound barrier that was constructed several years ago. A few trees have died. This is really a planning board issue. The trees were planted for zoning, visual buffer related, not environmental or wetlands related. And so there's a simple condition there about deferring that issue to the planning board, that you guys would allow that. There's also the replacement plantings in the bioretention area. And I'll call up other plans here. These are plans that have been submitted, Melissa. New information that had been submitted in this last set was the planting plans for the mitigation and the replication and the restoration areas. And so, like the drainage improvements, these planting improvements need to be done and then monitored for 2 growing seasons, be reviewed by and reported on by our wetland biologist at Goddard to the satisfaction of the commission. So this is, those of you who are familiar, this is the north in the maybe show overall site plan here first. The bioretention area is up in this northeast corner, north and east of the expansion of the warehouse. And the plants are going to be replaced, and some new plantings are going to be put in the area to have it functioning better than it does now, better than it was originally designed, I might say, from looking at it from the plant materials that are planted here. The other item is the wetland replication area that was associated with mitigation for the wetland crossing that was necessary when we rebuilt the septic system a few years back. And this is that area that is up in what used to be a turnaround for this northwest corner area of the warehouse. It's in that area that's circled there. So those 2 areas are areas that will be in the same type of condition. 2 years of monitoring, 2 growing seasons of monitoring to make sure that they're thriving to the level they need to be considered to be successful plantings for the future. The other aspects of that were in our submittal that were new, and like I said, that Lucas was able to review, and was the idea that we had generated at meetings a while back, in which we would work this edge here within the 20-foot no disturb zone, which is currently still sort of manicured grass areas. And so it would be in that area between the grass plantings that we're doing on for the Open Space Commission. We would enhance this buffer zone area with plantings. Associated with that, I keep getting these tools in the way, is plantings down in the southeast corner of the site down near Route 9, which we would consider plantings that are associated with, would be considered riverfront restoration area. These two areas, of course, as mitigation for our disturbance in the riverfront area primarily. What these are starting to look like, this is the area of the buffer zone enhancement. In that area, it's about, I forget the exact, 7,700 square feet, I believe, about that amount of area. And that would extend down into the area, about 12,500 square feet or so of area, which we are term as the riverfront replication area. With plantings, again, woody plants, trees and shrubs, some grasses. We thought it would be a good idea to have a pocket of isolated wetland grasses in that area that between some of this woody plantings and the stream bed, which is running here. So those conditions are, those are mitigation items that are new, and I thought it'd be a good idea to show the commission if you hadn't had a chance to look at the plans yourselves. But that's the new information, and we believe we have I believe that Melissa is probably in process of drafting these items into conditions. And at one point, I'd hoped to have a draft now, but I know that all the business with the commission and the quorum has kept her quite busy most recently. So make ourselves available to any questions. I can go back to any of the plans if anybody would like to see them or ask specific questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. First, I'd like to ask both Melissa and Joe, do you feel comfortable that these draft conditions will allow us to close out these three historical filings finally?
At least from a ministerial approach, I did talk to Scott briefly about, I think one thing that we would probably be adding was some sort of phasing language, that the old conditions need to be done first before the new items and the new expansion is completed. But maybe I'll leave Joe to the other comments, but that was my one big thing that I think the commission needs to make sure they add in.
Yeah, particularly the drainage issues. I'm sorry, particularly the drainage issues need to be done up front.
Thanks. And Joe?
Yeah, we didn't have any outstanding issues with the proposed conditions. I think they will cover what needs to be covered.
Fantastic. It feels like we're finally closing in here. Any questions, comments, concerns from the rest of the commission? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
And Bill Pizzoni. I just want to make sure that any requirement to do and complete this work beforehand, if there's any plantings, we don't have to wait a year or two before we start the other work. Yeah, I just want to make sure there's clarity.
No, the monitoring, so the way we're addressing that is the monitoring requirement for that will be part of the new order of conditions. We'll address the monitoring of that. So we will be able to close out those historical filings, but not lose track of those aspects. Yeah, no, so yeah, we've.
Thank you. I remember we had talked about it, but the way it was just phrased, I was concerned.
Understood. Thank you. Thank you.
Yep. And Bill, I'll try and incorporate that in the language for it. And when you guys get the draft, obviously you can comment on if you have any changes you think would make it easier.
Okay, so at this point, is there anybody in the audience who wishes to offer comments or has a question? If so, please use the raise hand function and we'll promote you up. Seeing anyone?
No hands.
All right, it looks like there aren't. All right, so we're going to have to kick the can down the road, I suspect, one last time to our next meeting. Do we have a motion to continue this hearing to our next meeting?
Move.
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Melissa, if you would.
Pete,
Yes.
Watson,
Yes.
Gregory. Sorry, Russ, I didn't hear you.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all for coming. And
Thank you.
We'll see you in a few weeks here. Okay. Next up, 71 Main Street and 1 Sears Road. In accordance with the provisions of the Southboro Stormwater and Erosion Control Bylaw, Southboro Zoning Code, Chapter 174, Section 13.5, and the Southboro Wetlands Bylaw, the Southboro Conservation Commission will hold continued public hearings on Thursday, April 7th, 2022 at 7:40 p.m. via a virtual Zoom meeting on the petition of 76 Fisher Road LLC for construction of new single-family homes and associated infrastructure at 71 Main Street and 1 Sears Road, map 53, lots 26 and 27. These hearings are being held concurrently, but each address has a separate filing.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, I'm James Tatro from Azimuth Land Design, here with Jim Benincasa from Whitney Street Home Builders. So it should be 76 Fisher Road LLC, one of his different corporate hats.
Yeah.
Sorry. And actually, what you just read is no longer the case on these lots. And we submitted a revised site plan showing that house construction is no longer proposed on either lot 4, 71 Main Street, or lot 3, which was to be the new number 1 Sears Road. In the interim, since we were last before you, Brendan Giblin has purchased the existing home, which is still number 1, was to be number 3, the home on lot 2, the existing home on lot 2. He also owns lot 3. And he, in the future, will own lot 4, but 76 Fisher Road still owns that. The bottom line is that the proposal before you now is not for construction of a home with septic system, etc., on either lots 3 or 4. It is for regrading of those lots, reestablishment of lawn, landscaping, but not, I repeat again, not for home construction anymore on lot 4, 71 Main Street, or lot 3, which was going to be the new number 1 Sears Road. And again, the reason for that is that Brendan Giblin has purchased that existing home and does not at this time wish to do any such construction on either lots 3 or 4. So what we have before you now, this revised site plan, is a proposal for, we revised obviously the driveway to the existing home that you see entering through lot 3. And basically it will be lawn and landscaped area on these lots. And no work, as before, no work within the 20-foot no disturb zone under the town's wetland bylaw outside of the isolated wetland that is located partly on the east side of lot 4 and partly on the abutter's property, if I say his name right correctly, Shake. So there's been a big change since we were last before you. And again, the reason is that the ownership of that existing house has changed. Do you want to add anything to that about?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. We are still showing the erosion control barriers at the same point on that plan as previously. which is the location of how far tree cutting was done in anticipation of development of these lots for the two homes, but there are not two homes proposed anymore. I'll just leave it at that and try and answer any questions.
Okay,
So-
yeah, please, Melissa.
Ben, do you mind if I kind of maybe make a recommendation first that,
please
maybe to go forward with these new lot layouts, so this is what the proposed plan will look like. So my recommendation for, the next meeting would be to have kind of a new submission within existing submissions. So ensure that we have updated numbers for the stormwater aspect, because the tree removal still is triggering those thresholds. So the permits still need to exist. But the square footage of things and percentages will be different. So maybe for the next meeting, having a new application page and site plan attachments kind of to replace the existing or original application.
I think that makes a great deal of sense, Melissa. Otherwise, it's just going to get far too messy to keep track of.
Okay.
I guess the only question I would have to that too is just in the interim, would we be able to go in, put the hay bales, silt fence in, and just kind of clean the lot up a little bit? We did this when I originally cleared. It was like more towards the end of the year, right before the winter, and then we stopped. But at this point, we would like to just be able to go in, put the hay bales in, silt fence, and just start cleaning up the lot, if that's okay. I don't know.
Hay bales and silt fence for sure.
I'm sorry, straw.
In consultation, straw bales. Thank you. In consultation with Melissa, in terms of cleaning up, I think for my part, I'd just like to hear a little bit more detail on what that might. There's cleaning up and there's cleaning up. If you're in there with with an excavator taking up the tennis court or something, that's maybe a bridge too far. So what exactly do you have in mind?
So we do have some just kind of like the debris around. There's fencing outside. There's stuff that was left behind by the chipper, and not go in there with an excavator like you're saying and start ripping things out, but kind of just cleaning up.
No earthwork.
Right, no earthwork as far as ripping any stubs out or doing anything. But there's a lot of kind of debris just around the site that we'd like to just make it look a little bit better. Like you said, no.
If it's not ground disturbance, then I'm certainly comfortable with it. Any comment from other commissioners? Okay, yeah, it looks like the commission is comfortable with that.
Okay.
And then we can get a sort of a just I'm calling it a revised filing, but it's sort of a new filing that will capture all the changes just in one document rather than doing it all piecemeal and getting us all confused.
Okay.
Okay.
Fair enough.
So we would ask then, I guess, to continue to your next hearing.
Sounds good. So I'm looking for, I'm sorry, I do have to see if there's anyone here from the public who wishes to offer any questions or comments. If so, please use the raise hand function and we will promote you up.
I do not see any hands.
Great. And there are being no further comments from the commission. I guess we're looking for a motion to continue this hearing to our next scheduled meeting.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, board.
Anyone like to make that motion?
Sorry.
Moved.
All right. The motion, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Melissa?
Pete?
Yep.
Watson?
Yes.
Gregory?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes. Great. All right. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming in tonight, and we'll see you in 3 weeks.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks.
Yep.
Okay. Next up, we have 84 Main. Okay, I see Peter is here to discuss with us. Good evening.
Got it. Sorry. Good evening, Peter Bemis, Engineering Design. Hope Commission members are all well. So 84 Main Street. We have not been before you for a bit, and the opportunity tonight was to just update you as to status and work that's still ongoing needs to be completed, and I would anticipate completed in 2022. So there's a few limits of wildflower seed mix that still needs to be redressed. That's kind of closest to the cottage, where there was some additional work activities that caused an area to be, I would say, just thinly established. So just not as robust as the other areas that have actually done extremely well. And then there's a little bit of turf that's in that area, just regular lawn that needs to be enhanced further as well. There are a group of antique granite posts that Mr. Biscoli has at a property in Sudbury that are going to be installed here. That work has not taken place yet. We have a stormwater collection system that has to go in on the west side. This would be east of the wall by the garden, kind of on the chapel end of the project. The roof drains from the carriage house were extended to the DCR property, and those are going to be intercepted. There'll be units that will be installed with stone, and there'll be a overflow that comes to the surface of the ground for that. However, it is a fairly robust system. My hope is that most storms would be addressed by the chambers that we're proposing. There was some evergreen plantings to do along the abutters lot on the east end of the site. There's some HVAC units. There are some invasive management that's going to ongo. I mean, this is something that just has to happen probably in perpetuity. I suggested that to Melissa. We've done a really good job at eradicating it with the plastic that was put down. Actually, it's a geotextile, but it's a reinforced product, and it's done extremely well. But in the areas where we had to remove some of it and bring up the wildflowers, there's a few that are propagated. So we'll have to keep continuing to stay after those. But for the most part, there is no colonization yet. There's just a few individual plants that have propagated, and we deal with it as soon as we see it. And there's pavement that would go down. So most of the areas are already established with pavement. And then you've seen the cobblestones along the edge, but that is the lower course, if you will. The finished course would be raised up to that cobble level. And it's going to be an exposed aggregate to look antique, like the rest of the project improvements that are there. We provided you with a straight plan that shows the site without an overlay of aerial photography. And then there's one with aerial, just so everyone could see the relationships to these things. There's also an antique trellis that's to be installed. It's approximately 12 by 15, and that's near the cottage as well. The wildflower planting would be, as I said, more work would be done to that on the east end. And we did provide you with a reference to the former chairman of the Historical Commission, Michael Weishan, who had just weighed in on some of the historical aspects of their board's involvement with the plantings that are on site. Because I know there's been some discussion about that too. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. So we got these materials fairly recently. I don't know if everyone's been able to get through them, but that and in combination with the fact that we have a bare majority here, and we will have, I believe, I suspect, a full panel at our next hearing. I think ultimately acting on this may have to take place in 3 weeks. But just to summarize here, you're looking for an administrative amendment the order of conditions to capture a couple of variations that have come up along during the construction process.
That is right. That's correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions or comments? I don't know if you've had the opportunity to review the materials yet or not. Does anyone have any questions or comments that you'd like to bring up?
Okay. No concern about extending. I mean, I should have opened by saying I was prepared to continue this matter, but I wanted to at least introduce the materials that were provided. So,
okay. Right. Yeah. In that case, this isn't a formal public hearing, so we don't have to, close the hearing or anything like that. But I think that the best course of action, honestly, is to push this off to our next meeting in 3 weeks, where we will have a full panel and we'll be able to act on it.
Great. Thank you.
So
you folks have been patient with me getting it to you, so believe me, you can take as many meetings as you like. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. So yeah, we don't even formally have to continue this. We just put it on the agenda for next time, and we're good to go.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming in.
Have a good evening. Okay.
Okay, moving along. All right, other business, conservation scientist agent report.
There's not too much going on right now in town. We're still working on the COC closeouts for 156 Northborough Road, Keynes Crossing, and there's definitely one more that I can't remember. And then nothing too new is starting. I expect the single family at 163 to be in the next couple of weeks, but that's kind of just about it for active sites. So moving on to update at Breakneck Hill Dump. So I met with DEP today with town council, their council, and Mark Purple. And we are just finalizing the administrative consent order. Hopefully, we were hoping to have the final copy done today, but hopefully DEP will be sending us that tomorrow morning, so that that's kind of going to be our okay to send to the select board and the Concom for them to look at it. There was kind of a lot of minor changes, and the penalties were changing quite a bit between discussion with council, so we didn't want to kind of give it to you guys too soon because it was going to change drastically. What is left in the administrative consent order are items that are their boilerplate and they do not change. And they explained to us this morning that it's mostly because they also deal with private entities, even homeowners, that sometimes aren't afforded the luxury of council because they don't have the funds. So they want to ensure that, there's kind of the same standard for everyone. But because we are kind of a willing participant in this process, and we're kind of entering this on our own cognizance, that the penalties at least, are drastically reduced, and they have worked with our timeline for a 2 fiscal year process, which is great. And I believe that the select board have officially put the use for the site assessment, which is phase 1, out of the ARPA funds. So that's why it's not going to be on the town meeting warrant for the May 4th and 5th meeting, because the money is already there. So essentially all we're waiting for is to finalize the administrative consent order, that ACO, and also just having the abutter sign that access agreement to ensure that we can do some test pitting on our property, at least for phase 1, and then depending on what we find, possible cleanup for next fiscal year. So that's where we are at the dump. We're almost there. It's just kind of the legal crap that's left, excuse my language. So but we've made some good progress, which is great. I'm excited to get this off the ground, and we might even get it started before July 1st because the funds are already available.
Fantastic. That's great news. Great news.
And then we have Park Central. I have an update on that. So while I was out, Ben was nice enough to find that the abutter versus ZBA in Park Central, the court has issued a decision to revoke and annul the ZBA's comprehensive permit. So I believe there's still the ability for Park Central folks to continue to appeal, to the next phase. I don't have any update if that has happened or what the town plans, if any. But as of right now, they do not have a comprehensive permit, and a major kind of, at least what seemed like a major finding in reading the decision was that, a reason why the permit was revoked was that the market rate units were afforded the 40B waivers, and that was, the extended too far of the ZBA's jurisdiction. So kind of what we have talking about, is if they were to come back, I believe that either the whole project would have to be 40B for them to have those waivers. And they would either have to get another comprehensive permit or use variance. Now, I'm not as familiar with the ZBA side of things, but arguably they don't have an ability to construct this project as of right now.
Just one thing so the town no longer has a use variance. We took that away at a town meeting shortly after. So any new project, obviously a 40B allows you to sidestep local zoning. But the fact that a use variance is no longer available, I think would change how things ultimately look. It was somewhat vindicating to see the sole reason that the permit was turned down was the point that, I think I first brought up about 4 years ago. Can't really say too much more about it for the reason that I was hoping to bring up tonight, which is I'd love to see on our next agenda to end the executive session that we had entered to discuss our defense of the lawsuit against us and any legal strategy surrounding Park Central. We technically still can't violate that. We can't talk about what was discussed during it without entering executive session. I don't think it's appropriate to have that in place anymore. We may need an opinion, or folks may desire an opinion. We don't need the opinion from town council, but it may be desired.
I will definitely talk to town council because I know there are a couple still out there, I believe, that haven't quite wrapped up while they're, I think, kind of null and void with this. They still exist. So I will definitely, for the next meeting, try and have an answer beforehand so we can make some sort of action.
I think the executive session was specifically related to the lawsuit against the commission. We were discussing legal strategy there, and things that I'd like to talk about, but we just can't. So within that suit has been, we came to an agreement on it, and it is now dismissed. So, but that can be confirmed with town council, and hopefully we can wrap that up at our next hearing.
Okay. Thanks for reminding me. I wouldn't have even thought of that, Ben. So thank you.
Yeah, I was talking with somebody about it, and I realized I was about to say something. I realized, wait a second, I'm not even allowed to talk about that. So, anyhow,
we have 2 permits to issue if you want to do those quickly.
Yeah. Okay. And our discussion of Chestnut Hill Farm Management Plan will take place in 3 weeks.
Yes. Yep. I believe I put on the drive the comments from the Open Space Preservation Commission. So look over those. I also gave those to the trustees, and if they change based on the committee's next meeting, then I'll get those to you post haste as well.
Fantastic. Okay. Yes. So the 10 and 12 Brigham Street.
Yes. So the 2 conditions, and you can choose if you want one or both on each one. We know we talked about both, at least on 10, but we, Joe brought up, but we didn't explicitly, discuss the invasives on 12 Brigham. So the 2 conditions are boulders shall be placed along the 20-foot buffer zone with associated signage that depicts the no-touch area. Signage and location of boulder shall be approved by the agent prior to installation, and this condition shall remain in perpetuity and be in place prior to the issuance of a certificate of compliance. Because on both lots, there was a 20-foot, and on lot 6, it was a very small corner by the road, but they were grading right up to it. So I would recommend having the boulders there as well, because that would probably be the easiest place to mow because it's flat.
And then one last thing on that. I don't think it needs to be captured in the condition, but you're the one who's going to be approving the location. Obviously, on lot 5, you know, the 20-foot buffer goes way back into the property.
Yeah.
So yeah, your judgment on how far the boulders go, obviously.
Yeah. Usually, I think I noted like it was wetland flag 102 or something. So, you know, adjacent to the limit of work, I'll put in there. And then the second one was a construction and post-construction invasive species management plan shall be submitted prior to construction for mitigation of invasive honeysuckle and bittersweet. The plan shall include that plants shall be cut prior to the fruiting of plants, and no contaminated soil shall be removed, or if necessary, it shall be disposed of properly.
Sounds good. Any edits to that? Sorry.
I might add just and approved by the agent prior to construction too. Submitted and approved.
Does anyone have anything to add?
Did you want both of them on both permits?
I would prefer that. Is everybody else on board with that, or see your head nodding? Okay. So let's take in the order that we saw them, number 12, which is lot 5. Do we have a motion to issue an order conditioned as discussed?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
And Melissa?
Pete?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
Gregory? I'm sorry, Russ, I didn't hear you again. Thank you. Smith?
Yes.
Thank you.
And lot 6, is there a motion to issue the order of conditions as discussed?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Pete?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
Gregory?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay, and we need one last motion. Who wants to do the honors?
Oh.
And is there a second?
Second.
Melissa?
Pete?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
Gregory?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
All right, we are done.
Thanks, everyone.